Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our session, which is Paving the Way in Weight Management, all the secrets to successful virtual retail programs. I'm Mandy Katz, a registered dietitian and a member of the Healthy Living team at Giant, and I'm going to be your moderator today. And our retail RDs that are presenting are experts in weight management. They're also now experts in presenting online, and they're going to show us all of the really just share the tips that they've learned when they launch their own very successful programs. And they're going to give us some strategies that are going to be super helpful if you're thinking about maybe helping your audience come into store and learn how to eat healthier, extra weight pounds off. So we do want to make sure that we want to allow enough time for questions at the end, maybe getting some best practices from all of you if perhaps you're leading a as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Our presenters today are Joni Rampolla and Kristen McGill. So Joni, just go ahead and get us started.
All right. So my name is Joni Rampolla. I am a regional nutritionist with the Giant Company, and the Giant Company consists of Giant food stores, mostly in Pennsylvania, and Martin's food markets, mostly in Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. I just want to start off by saying why weight management, right? Why are we even coming to you with this program today? One thing that really caught my eye was the Harris poll, which is a nationwide poll, was conducted February 2021, so just a couple months ago. 61% of adults reported an undesirable weight change during the pandemic. Not surprising, right? 2 in 5 said they gained more weight than they intended, and the average weight gain was 29 pounds. That's the part that shocked me, 29 pounds. So the CDC, the latest obesity rates were from 2018, where obesity overall, 42.5%, and overweight versus obese, 73.6%. So those are pretty high numbers from 2018. So only like 26% of the population was in a normal weight range in 2018. And now we believe that that went up. So Kristen and I believe that if we encourage each of you to do something about weight management in your brand, even if it's a drop in the bucket, we're helping the population in general. Kristen, want to say something about that?
Yeah, thanks, Joni. And by the way, I just want to say hi, I'm Kristen McGill. I am a member of the Healthy Living team at Giant, which we are based out of the greater Washington, D.C. area. And yes, we touch on parts of Virginia and Maryland and Delaware. So, and like Joni, we both have a strong passion for combating the obesity epidemic. And I will kind of share, we'll have a chance to obviously share how we laid the foundation down for our programs. But I think I want to take a step back and be like, whoa, to those numbers, because they are ever increasing. And, thanks, Joni, for sharing that, because it's not getting any better. But, Joni's basically saying, why weight management? Why is this a concern? And we know the stats, we know the numbers. But I think it's important to, for those of you who are interested, and maybe weight management isn't your passion, but you still definitely can serve a vital role in combating the obesity epidemic. I think it's important to ask that question, how? So Joni's kind of asking, why weight management? We know it's important, but how do we stay relevant in a sea of competition? And I'm not talking just across brands. I'm talking about all those other weight management programs that you hear about, like Noom and Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem. So how can we develop a program that is just as vital to everybody's health and well-being who are looking to lose weight in a healthy way? And the other thing that, just to add to that is we want to ask, how can we communicate that message that all foods fit and in moderation, but have that weight management spin on it? So, and we know there's a bunch of other, health initiatives out there, like the Health at Every Size. There's this whole anti-diet movement, which is definitely music to our ears as retail dietitians. But, how do we kind of just encompass all of that in our program? So the one thing that I'm excited to just highlight, and I think Joni will too, is just that both of our programs emphasize positivity and acceptance and creating that safe space for people to come and just learn from us. But of course, tying in those expert pieces that we already know so well, like mindfulness or meal planning, because we know the connection with meal planning and weight management. So anyway, but yeah, that's all I wanted to add to that, Joni. So thanks for kicking us off with some scary but very important statistics.
So we do know the why now. Absolutely, customers are asking for this. I think if we all, we're probably all really tired of seeing about the COVID-19 pound gain and all of those memes that are going around. So we know that our customers definitely want this, particularly now. So let's go ahead and kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about your program specifically. And can you share a little bit about how your program is structured and why did you structure it that way? So, Joni, do you want to kick that off for us?
Sure. So our program started in April of 2020, just as the pandemic started, and the nutritionists were offering just random classes online platform. Like my first class was Mediterranean diet. And we just picked topics that we wanted to pick. And I did one on weight management, and that was our most attended class. Um, but when I say most attended, it was like 10 people, 12 people. We weren't having big numbers at all. But then our team got together and we were talking. We said, you know what, we should do tracks. We're not doing consults anymore where we used to do consults. So then we created tracks like series. So there was a diabetes management, heart health, gut health, and I did the weight management track. It started as 6 weeks. We then short 6 weeks and they were hour each classes. We shortened it to be whatever the month is. So if there are 4 weeks in a month, it's 4 weeks. If there's 5 weeks, there's 5 weeks. People sign up on Eventbrite so we can collect whatever information we want to collect about them. They get sent a link from Zoom. And I believe my classes really started growing because created this family atmosphere. So I'd log on 10 minutes before the class started and welcome everybody. I let them in and, welcome Debbie and Jane and Dee's iPad and Bucks County Wellness, like whatever they signed in as, I'd call them out and encourage them to turn their video on and ask me a question or start a chat before the lecture started. So that's how our program began.
So, Kristen, do you want to talk a little bit about how your program's structured?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I do that, I wanted to give a brief background piece of information about me is that before I came to work for a Giant or work in retail, I was a bariatric dietitian. And so that kind of sparked my whole passion for obesity and weight management. So I loved the experience that I gained, and I was determined from here on out, I'm going to carry that weight management passion with me wherever I go and no matter what kind of role I'm serving. So when I came to retail, I was thinking back on what was most impactful in the bariatric clinic. And by the way, I want to mention that I know when we're interacting with our customers, the end goal is not surgery like how it was when I was at the clinic. And you don't need to have the bariatric background to develop your own. But I'm just kind of explaining how I developed my program. But one of the coolest things about working in that clinic was that we had support group. And you'll find that there's a lot of similarities that Joni and I are going to share with ours. But I love support group because we would see patients of all different ranges. Like they could be 6 weeks post-op or they could be 6 years post-op. And they would come together. And I know things are different because of the pandemic. But what we did is we just opened up the floor. And we had two co-facilitators. I was one of them, but then what they would have, or we would have some kind of guest speaker. And I know it's not always ideal to have a guest or somebody else who's expertly trained to speak on a certain subject. But it really helped break down those barriers. And I love the fact that people learned from each other. They were inspired. They left feeling so uplifted. And that's exactly what I wanted to emulate in my program, because I'm sure, and Joni can totally attest to this, I'm sure that, people come and they're down and out. They're defeated. They've tried it all. They want to know something that, tell me something new. And so what I did is that I was like, okay, how can I teach them obviously the basics or the importance of weight management, but have that discussion or that support group feel to it. And that was even more challenging because it was in the retail space, but it was then also virtually. So how I designed my program is, I actually allowed an hour-long class. It was a 6-week-long series, using a lot of the content that we had built into our programming as is. So no need to reinvent the wheel. But what I did is I allowed about, it was 30 minutes of just core content, but I allowed 30 minutes of buffer time to engage with the audience, just like what Joni was saying, where you acknowledge the people who comment. You say, hey, so-and-so, I see you're here. Thanks for being here today. And I think that really sets the stage because, again, I don't know what kind of guard they have coming into this program. So again, it goes back to creating that safe space, that environment that they feel like, hey, I actually think I can gain a lot from attending these classes. So 6 week long sessions, an hour long. And because I couldn't really bring in experts necessarily, I decided to bring in my team members. And so if anybody out there is part of a team, or you have community partners, or you have like some people that that are expertly trained, it would be nice to consider that, because it just livens up the discussion. And also for me, it helps facilitate the chat box, because I, was probably too bogged down toggling between the two. So it helped with that discussion, also helps facilitate maybe a smoother chat box functionality. So yeah.
I really love how both of you have tried to keep it really personal. And we know that's really hard to do in the virtual space. And really acknowledging people when they come in and actually making them feel that they are a part of a community is really essential in that weight loss journey that they're all going through. And so for them, there were, those barriers of connection. What are some barriers that the two of you experienced when you pulled together these programs? Because, like many retail RDs, we know that when it comes to programming, there are all kinds of roadblocks into actually getting success. So, can we start with you, Joni? And can you share some of the barriers you might have encountered and how you overcame them?
Yeah, so I'll talk about what I think was my main barrier was attendance, because I feel like a lot of
I think
people.
every RD here listening would say the same.
Yes. So we started, it was like 8 people, 10 people, like 20 was amazing, because at that point I thought, well, that's what I would get about in store. So it seemed the same and it was good. But it probably took me like 8 months of hovering around those numbers and putting flyers in the store. But I'm only in one store and my reach was trying to be broader. So I really needed brand support. And they wouldn't put it on the web or spend designer time to create us neat things. It was just what our team created. But the support that they gave was invaluable. So the nutritionist team does Instagram or Facebook little stories, meaning like 30-second blurbs of something that ties into the marketing message. And what they allowed us to do was, after our 30-second blurb, we could say swipe up to see our classes. So that got us a good reach on Instagram and Facebook. And then also the flyers that we create are distributed at our brand events. Like, we're partnered with the 76ers in Philadelphia. And, they had an event and distributed our flyers to tons of people. Or we just had an event at the Please Touch Me Museum in Philadelphia and distributed flyers there. So that is great brand support. And then also, one of the biggest ways I think that they've been supporting us too is offering choice points. And for us, choice points are bonus points against a loyalty card that you can turn in for either food items or gas at the pump at one of our stations. So it's kind of like we're paying them to come to our class. But they get 50 points per class going forward. For National Nutrition Month, we offer 200 gas points per class, which is a really big deal. And to me, that support has made my attendance just skyrocket. And like my class that I had last week, I had 89 people attending, and in the 80s has been the norm.
That's great. So it sounds like the barrier was getting the people in, but having those flex or those support dollars or points going to that card really kind of helped boost that in a big way. And your program is free, correct?
Correct. My program is free.
Great. Kristen, so you had a different kind of barrier, because I'm going to just put it out there. Giant Food doesn't offer bonus points to get people into class. So what are some of the barriers you have? And I know attendance is always going to be something that comes up.
Yeah, for sure. And, I'm totally fine talking about the barriers, because I think it's just, I'm sure some people can commiserate some of my frustrations. But so first of all, before the pandemic, we were more isolated in a certain area. I was, in Alexandria, Virginia, parts of Arlington. It's right outside Washington, D.C. So it's actually a very affluent area. Now, I know that, I guess, thanks to the pandemic, we have been able to, definitely reach a broader audience. And so one of the things that I thought was pretty cool with my program is, I don't know how people got wind of it, but, I was having a couple people attend from California, or I had a couple people attend from the UK, which I was like, I don't know how, because we, promoted it internally. But I think that when I initially launched the class with my demographic area, people have money. This is very affluent. They're educated, and they've spent those dollars on weight loss programs that have not worked for them. They've spent those dollars on personal trainers. So kind of going back to what I said, that, I think it was hard for me to market my program, especially because it's free, just like Joni's. And I think people are so skeptical when they hear that word free that, yeah, they're coming to me. I think, and this definitely made me feel a little more intimidated, because it was almost like, yes, their guard was up and they were like, I've been there, done that. I've, tried it all. Tell me something I don't know. What is worth my time? What can you do for me? So my biggest barrier was actually the fact that I'm a free service, but trying to let people know, like, I'm the real deal. I'm legit. I'm not some quack. But, with that free, I think people automatically assume you get what you pay for. So that was one of my biggest barriers. And I think that, by the way, Joni, I think those numbers are like fantastic, because I know I probably wouldn't see numbers in the 80s, even if I, promoted my tail off with this class, or this series. So, but I think that's really awesome, just kind of differentiating how, you've had your barriers, I've had mine, but attendance is still, very respectable. So, I would say that, yes, I had a lot of registrants, but getting them to attend weekly for my series was a little bit of a struggle. In fact, I did see significant numbers drop off as the weeks went by. I played around with different times, offered evening and then offered afternoon. And still, it's a learning process. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, was just the free services, the demographics. Like, I think that should be getting better, hopefully, the more that the program is offered. So yeah, and I would say what Joni had said too, it's a lot, it's a hustle. You got to hustle and you got to promote your class, because if you put like blood, sweat, and tears into it, you want the numbers to show. So, but I will say to that I knew that, yeah, my attendance was going to keep dropping off. It's kind of like the expectation. I'm sure a lot of people out there know exactly what I mean. But what I did is I tried to turn it into a strength. So I actually think that that's amazing, Joni, that you have like 89 people. Because like I said, I don't think I'd ever see those numbers for as long as I live, but that would probably overwhelm me. I think I'd probably have a panic attack, just because I'm not used to that. And so it might actually end up being more of like a disaster. I don't know. Maybe next time I do this, I would get 89, but cross that bridge when I get there. But I actually used it where, hey, my numbers are smaller, but this is where you develop that intimacy. You really get to know your customer base. You get to know their struggles. And it actually started to work, where my whole goal was that I wanted them to connect not only with me, but other members. So they were actually like, at so-and-so in the chat, like, I totally know what you mean, or at so-and-so, I've got recipe ideas, we'll connect offline. And I was like, yes, this is amazing, because that's exactly what happened at support group when I was a bariatric dietitian, where people would connect and they had that like sense of belonging and that sense of community. So anyway, those are my two barriers. But trying to turn a negative into a positive, I guess, was, my whole goal at the end.
So I see we have some questions coming in. We're going to get to those at the very end. So keep throwing those in and we will try and answer them as we go along, but we will address them at the very end. Okay, so the last question I have for you, and it's a doozy. It's the question that every retail RD asks every day of themselves when they put programming together. And that is, what's the ROI here? What's the return on investment for your brand when you do this type of programming? Because yes, it's absolutely needed. Yes, it's a fantastic service. But when you go back and report to the home office, what is it that you're bringing in for your brand? So Joni, as always, I'm going to kick it to you first.
Sure. And that is so important. Even to get the brand to support us, we had to show that, what are we doing for the community? Why is this important? One of the main things that I think we are doing that you really can't measure is we're building loyalty with our customer base. Like I have over 80 people joining and my attendance has only gone up month over month. I've never seen a drop. So to me, that loyalty it means something. So our nutritionist team, we're getting a lot of testimonials that we just keep sending to our employer, like, here's their name, here's what they said. That's important. We're aligning what we do with the marketing strategy. And the brand wants to see that as well. And an example, like, what does that mean, marketing strategy? An example for May, we're doing Fresh Air Fridays. It's like the brand is encouraging people to get outside and do meals outside or things that can be on the go. So in our classes, we're going to talk about Fresh Air Fridays. So we kind of aligned that way. We also highlight store brands. So whatever, I sometimes do recipes or product demos or talk about a brand, and, we'll highlight some store brands in there along with others. We promote in our store, we have a nutrition navigation system, Guiding Stars. We promote that. So we're supporting the brand in that promotion as well. And I'll just give you one example that I thought was kind of funny. In one of my classes, I was talking about healthier snacks. And one of my favorite products happens to be Boar's Head dark chocolate hummus with some fresh strawberries. So
Yes.
I was promoting that as like a great healthier. You still get that sweet taste. It tastes almost like chocolate pudding. You get your fresh sweet strawberry. And I had like 3 different people go, okay, my store sold out of the Boar's Head chocolate hummus. You've done a great promotion on it. Like that means something to me. So those are ways that we support the brand.
And how about you, Kristen?
Yeah, honestly, Joni couldn't have said it better. I agree that, whatever your weight management or whatever your program is in general, it's probably going to fall into the, business initiatives. And so like Joni was saying, loyalty is key. And so very similarly, we talk about the products that are available. We talk about the resources and the tools that they have. So yeah, people are going to be able to count on your brand, that they have everything that they need right at their fingertips or right when they walk in the store to help support their wellness goals. And yes, I did see that too, where people would say to me, I usually go to such and such store down the street, but I'm going to go that extra mile and I'm going to go to Giant down the road because I know you carry everything that is going to help meet my needs. And exactly like what Joni was saying, having that product incorporation, I think that's what gets people so excited. And that's what gets me jazzed when I'm talking about, weight management, but also like what Joni was saying about the dark chocolate hummus. So many people are like, I had no idea that existed. And oh my gosh, it's amazing. And so, yeah, people would come back and they would say, hey, I tried this, or, hey, you know what, next time when I go to the store, I'm going to look for Guiding Stars. I had no idea that was even available to me. So yeah, I think what Joni was saying is that trust, those impact ratings, the how good, the Guiding Stars, but also I think, trust and loyalty. I also wanted to say that, if you are developing that trust, people are going to look and see the bigger picture in time where your retailer has taken time to invest in dietitians. So what that communicates to the public is that this retailer cares about my health and wellness. They care. They offer these services to help me get where I want in life. And that's what kind of sets you apart from, the competitors. So, just wanted to say those are, basically, the key points of the program is that it's going to fall perfectly in line with business initiatives.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of questions that have been coming in, and we have about 6 minutes left. So I'm going to do some rapid fire questions from the chat, and then we're going to see if anybody wants to pop up on screen in case they have anything that they would like to share. So the first couple of questions, I'm just going to throw out the answers to you real quick. Joni does a half an hour, Kristen does an hour. Both sessions are free. But the big one is, Joni, that I saw, do you find that by offering incentives to people, are they truly engaged or are they just in it for the points? And this question came from Allison, and she says, I'd assume it's a mix, but curious about your insights on this.
So I will say it is a mix, but like I had somebody the other week say they love getting the points because our brand allows you to donate points to a charitable cause, and that lets them be more charitable. So not everybody is getting it to just have points. Like we didn't always offer points. Like we offered it and then it went away for a while, and now it's coming back as 50 points each. So I think There are definitely people that come for the points. Like when you see an older person join our kids class, you know they're there for the points, right? They don't have a kid with them. But yeah, I think most people are just really enjoying it and coming for that.
So, a question from Trish, and she's asking, how do you manage to interact with 80 participants in a 30-minute class? Now, I know, Kristen, you
I
have a
need to know.
helper.
Yeah.
You have a
Yes.
helper. But
Yeah.
Joni, do you have a helper in your classes? Like a one-man operation?
I am a one-man show. I show up 10 minutes before my class starts all the time, and I start letting people in and ask them, like, this is your time with me to ask a question. I'm here to support you. Like, let me answer what you want to know. And just that intimate little dialogue before I get started. And when I get started, it's usually a PowerPoint presentation that I'm doing. And if I'm doing a recipe, it's often through PowerPoint. Like, here's the ingredients, here's what it looks like. It's not like an actual watch me cooking. We do have a
Gotcha.
watch me cooking, but that's not in weight management.
So I'm going to throw this question out to Kristen. It comes from Eve. How do you keep clients engaged during the virtual session? Do you have any favorite tools or activities? And I see that someone has popped up. So if anyone would like to contribute to the conversation, go ahead and make the request to show up with your video, and I'll go ahead and let you in. So Kristen, can you answer that question about interaction?
Absolutely. Eve, I'll answer it right away. So yeah, great question. How do I keep people engaged? Actually, what I did is I love polls. So I launched polls all the time, and I had my chat buddy or person who was co-facilitating do that for me. So again, I'm not really great at multitasking apparently in the virtual space. So, but yeah, that was really helpful. And, lots of opportunities like, hey, throw it in the chat about this, or hey, throw this, or what are you hearing in the headlines these days, are so confusing with diets and all that kind of stuff. So that's really how I kept the engagement going. And I think it worked really well. But I also had a very small group. So people did it was almost like then they really came in. And I was like, all right, we got to get back on our topic. So, but it was a really good time. So that's one thing that worked really well for me.
So Joni, you do yours as sort of lunch and learn style. Kristen, what time of day are you doing yours?
Good question. So I actually tried to play around with it because the first time I launched this series, it was actually in the evening because I thought maybe that would be, better for people. But I actually, we've heard of that Zoom fatigue, or actually what Phil just said, Zoomies. That's really funny. It's my first time hearing that, but so true. So I decided the second time when, January rolled around that maybe noon would be better. And I did get a lot more participants because that's like that sweet spot of the day where, maybe people are taking their lunch break and they can just kind of, participate. So I still have yet to kind of hit that like best spot. But I did notice a big difference between the noon versus 6 p.m. class with attendance.
Well, especially with the weather changing, we know a lot of people are very excited to leave their computers and their desks to get outside in the nice air and appreciate that sunshine. So it's likely in the warmer weather, probably midday and maybe in the colder months, people are willing to tune in at night. So anyone here have any best practices as far as timing when you do your events? Anyone do any type of similar programming or even just typical programming? When do you find that you have your best attendance? If anyone has any commentary on that. I don't see anyone. Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you, Joni and Kristen, for sharing all of your best practices. I really love how you're building a community, and it's virtual now, so that's an even harder task to do. So certainly thank you for your time today. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone. And if you have any questions, you can always IM at the top to Joni or Kristen throughout the next couple of days. So thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Joni. Bye, Mandy.